Appreciate it. So today's topic of discussion really is an important one because it's become this new thing in Santa Clara County. Really, it's been going on in some of the other San Mateo County. It's been a thing for a while. Sewer laterals has been a big topic. Up in the North Bay, in the East Bay, and in Santa Cruz, we've had some ordinances for a while dictating that, we need to have our sewer lateral inspected as part of point of sale. Well, as of last summer, Santa Clara County, Morgan Hill was the first city in this county to then require a sewer lateral inspection. So because of that, it kind of got HomeGuard involved. We kind of got involved thinking now that we have to have sewer laterals inspected in Morgan Hill, this is something we need to offer you guys, right? Because that's our customers as real estate agents, right? So we got on board and we did a lot of research and got into the sewer lateral business and started to do this. So I'm going to present to you everything I know about sewer lateral, which is quite a bit. So what we're going to talk about is what is a sewer lateral. That's really important, right? What is a sewer lateral? It's if you're going to have to sell a house and get it inspected, you should definitely know everything there is to know about it, right? We're also going to talk about why it's important to have it inspected. Yes, we have the ordinance. That is a reason to get it inspected because it's a point of sale. But there are other important reasons on why we should be having it inspected, even if we're listing a home in an area or we have a buyer who's buying a home in an area with no ordinance. So we'll go over that. Inspector qualifications, we'll touch up real quickly on what is required to be an inspector to inspect a sewer lateral. And the cities do have requirements. You can't just hire anybody to do a sewer lateral because the cities are dictating who you can hire. Sewer lateral certification. That's the big thing, the sewer certification. That's what you need to get in order to sell the home in Morgan Hill. And then preparing for a complete sewer lateral inspection. So what do you need to do to get the house ready if you're going to have the inspection and the day of when the inspector arrives? And then lastly, we'll go over the report and we'll talk what's going to be in the report and what's going to cover that. So I'll move forward. What is a sewer lateral? We have this awesome diagram here. It shows you really what a sewer lateral is. And it is one of those things that is out of sight, out of mind, right? It's underground. So we don't see it. We don't really care about it. We don't think anything of it until something really bad happens. And what is that? Usually you got a pipe in your front yard and smelly stuff starts pouring out of the front. And you're like, oh my gosh, what is that smell? Or if you don't have the pipe in the front, you have it coming out of your bathtub or your sinks. And that's also equally bad, right? So when that happens, we've hit this point of no return. We've got a really big situation. We've got a big issue here. It's a health hazard and you got to get a plumber out. So how can we prevent that from ever getting to that? And that is one thing is why the cities are having the sewer laterals inspected, to prevent those occurrences from happening. And it's also important why you want to have your buyer to have the sewer lateral inspected is because of that. So our sewer lateral can be broken into two sections, two segments. And really the sewer lateral does not start under the home. So if you think your sewer lateral is under your house, no, that is your home plumbing, your house plumbing. What is under the house is that it's called our drain waste vent system. That's what's under the house. That would be covered with your home inspection. So your home inspection is going to talk about that system and any defects or problems with that. The sewer lateral is going to start on the outside of the foundation. So it starts right on the other side of the foundation. We have this nice little access pipe that comes up and sticks up. That's called a clean out. That's your sewer lateral clean out. That would be where you're starting your sewer lateral. And it's going to go all the way to the district sewer main, to the city sewer main. That is the entire lateral. That is the encompass of the system, the entirety of it. Now it's broken into two sections. This is important. It's good to understand and know why we have two sections and what those two sections mean. Because depending on what city the home is in will determine what the owner is responsible for. So in San Jose, we are responsible for our upper lateral as homeowners. The upper lateral is what is on the homeowner's property. Once you go past that property line, you're no longer in the upper lateral, you're in the lower lateral. And in San Jose, this would be the city's responsibility. If you go ahead and you install this little clean out, City of San Jose takes over the rest of the line and will make any needed repairs there if something goes wrong. Anything that happens here on your property, the homeowner has to take care of that. Now let's drive down to Morgan Hill. We're selling a home in Morgan Hill. or you're buying a home in Morgan Hill for somebody, which are we responsible for? The entire thing, upper and lower, right? And this is a big distinction because we're responsible for up and lower. Now we've got added cost. If we have any problems here, the city's not going to take care of it. You have to take care of it. If you have to dig up the street or the sidewalk to get to that, your cost goes way up, right? So that's why it's important to know. And we go up into East Bay, you're going to be responsible for the whole thing. We go up the peninsula, the whole thing. Santa Cruz, the whole thing. So there's a lot of that going on. But here in Santa Clara, most of the cities in Santa Clara, it's just the upper lateral. Yes, San Jose in Santa Clara County. Yeah, San Jose, Cupertino, all those areas, it's going to be just the upper for now. That may change. I don't know. That could change. Morgan Hill, when they passed this ordinance, kind of has got other cities thinking, right? They're starting to think about this too. So it is coming. So it is important to know what our sewer lateral is. Key terms, again, upper lateral, lower lateral. Who's responsible for what? You can always go to the city website. Just go to that city's website, go to the sewer. They always have a section for utilities, sewer, water. Go there. They're going to tell you very clear right there who's responsible. All of them have it on their website if you ever have that question, okay? Any questions on what is a sewer lateral? No? Okay, good. The clean out. What is a clean out? This is the other part of that system. This is how we get into the system. This is how we fix it. If we need to clear out the line, this is how we inspect it. Most importantly, this is how we're going to put the camera in there. Our inspectors do have a camera that is on a reel. That's a 200-foot line. So they take the cap off, they put the camera in, they push it out all the way to the city main. They're pulling it back. As they're pulling it back, they're making a video and recording it. So this is vital. We have to have one of these to do the inspection in most cases, okay? Where are they going to be located? Generally, here in San Jose and Santa Clara County, it's going to be in the front of the house, somewhere in the front, within 5 feet of the structure. It's always going to be within 5 feet of the structure because that is required by city code when we're installing them. So it'll be like a 3 or 4 inch pipe coming out of the ground, kind of like that. It may be encased in a little case and has a lid on it that says sewer. Like that could be a possibility, maybe in your driveway. If we're living on the hillsides up in Almaden Valley or some of those areas there, it may go a lot of different ways. It may not run out the front of the house because when we have those hillside homes, who knows where those sewer pipes are for the city. So it's going to go towards that. If we have an older area that has back alleys, like we head up into the East Bay, some areas have back alleys, the sewer pipe might be in the back and the lateral run out the back. So, but in 90% of the times it's coming at the front. And you might find two. It could be two cleanouts. We have one near the house and we have one at your property line. The one at the property line is the city cleanout. That's, they want you to put that there so they can use that to get into their pipe when they're performing inspections on their system. So that's why they mandate now, and they have ordinances that say when you're going to fix your lateral, you got to put 2 in, right? So then we have this other cleanout. This 2-inch cleanout has a big red X because we cannot use the 2-inch cleanout. This is a cleanout that we're going to find near our kitchen or bathroom, right? And that's an access point for those areas to get in there and clear out those lines. That's what that's meant for. It is not meant to be used for sewer lateral. The camera will not fit in there. Okay, it's too big for that. And then lastly, we have this other option. Let's say our house was built in 1965. Does it have a clean out? No, it was never built with a clean out like this. They didn't build them that way back then. They didn't start installing those until 1970s. So here's some key dates. 1970s, you should have a clean out somewhere in your front. Prior to that, you probably do not have it unless we had our plumbing renovated and remodeled. If they redid all that plumbing under the house, then that would have triggered the city to tell them to install that as part of the permitting process for the new plumbing. So then you may have that. That would be why it wasn't done. We start getting into the 80s, most definitely you're going to have it. The 90s, most definitely. 2000s. Now, we do run into a lot of situations where people had landscapers come in. They do landscaping work and they cover them up. And then they're hidden. Now let's say that happens, or we got that 1960 home or the 1940 home in downtown San Jose. We don't find a clean out. How can we get in to do that inspection? We can't. We can take the toilet and remove it. We can pull the toilet out. That gives us access to a 3-inch pipe, and we can stick the camera in there and make our way to the sewer lateral. It works about 60% of the time. The other 40% of the time, it doesn't work because underneath our house, there's too many bends in that pipe. If there's too many bends, it gets too hard to push that camera. There's a potential for it to get stuck, at which point the inspector will say, hey, it's too hard. I have to abandon the inspection. You're going to have to install a clean out. That's just, and you should have one. Really, everybody should have that. The cities do require that. Okay. So any questions about clean outs? That's a good question. Clean outs can run from $2,500 to $5,000 to install. And that really depends on the property, how far we have to dig down. Is there concrete around where the sewer lateral is? Does it come under the driveway? And now I got to break up the concrete to create that clean out. So costs can vary, but expect at least $2,000 or more to do a clean out. Okay. Any other questions about clean outs or how we get in? I've received this question a lot. I get asked this one a lot. Can your inspector go on the roof to do it? Well, you can, and there are plumbers who will do that. There are plumbers who will climb up on the roof and use the big 3-inch pipe coming out of the roof. And that works really well, although it's not really legal to do that, mainly because of what we, known as OSHA. OSHA has regulation on who can and how, when you can climb on a roof and work on a roof. And really, we shouldn't be working on a roof without fall protection. So no, our inspectors cannot go up on the roof to do that through the roof. Some people ask me that and I tell them we can't because of that regulation.
So we have a question on Zoom.
Oh, we got a question on Zoom. All right.
So this question is from Bill. It says, if the toilet has to be removed, is that included in the free lateral?
No, that is the toilet removal. If we have to do that, there will be an additional charge for that. And a work authorization would need to be signed for my inspector to do that. And that's because he's going to pull that toilet off. We're going to redo the whole wax seal and everything. So, because when you pull that toilet, you got to redo the wax seal. You can't just put it back with using the old seal. You got to use a new seal. So there will be a charge for that. And we would need an authorization from the homeowner of the house, whoever owns the home. But if you don't have a clean out, you could have our guy do it, or you can do it yourself. Your homeowner can do it, or if you got a handyman, go ahead, remove the toilet, or we'll come in, we'll do the inspection if you can't locate a clean out before you order the inspection. Septic is a whole separate system, and it has its own regulation, correct? So it's not part of this. We do not inspect septic. If you have a rural property up in the hills of Morgan Hill, and it's septic, that's not going to be under this ordinance. You should have a septic guy come out. He's licensed to inspect that system, clean it, and do all that stuff. So always refer to the septic guys who are licensed for that. Yeah. How often should they? Oh. When you need it is when you're going to install it. Yes, correct. So if you need to get like plumbing work done, if plumbing work's going to get done, the city is, if you don't have a clean out, the city is going to require you to install one. If you need it for the inspection, then you should probably have it done. I mean, it is required, but nobody's going to come along and say, hey, you have to put this in. It will get triggered by usually permitting of some sort is where that's going to get triggered from. Yeah. Okay. Okay, good.
We have a lot of trees.
Yes, lots of trees.
So our have a lot of trees, but have a plumber check their pipes generally every 2 years.
Right.
Because roots grow through those pipes.
Absolutely, and we'll be up. That's the next slide to talk about is why to have it inspected. Right. Absolutely. Uh-oh. It disappeared. Yeah, and I'll talk about that. There is a he's gonna get it back up, but the next slide is why is it important to have the sewer lateral inspected, right? Now, yes, Morgan Hill has an ordinance, and I'll talk about that ordinance, but there are other reasons why we want to have our sewer lateral inspected. And just like you said, trees is big. In San Jose, we're the tree city. We're a tree city. Santa Clara is a tree city. We are required to have trees on our property. That is the law, to have one tree, right? So we definitely want to make sure we have our sewer laterals checked, because trees are one of the biggest problems for sewer laterals. Well, a tree's roots, what are they designed to do? They're meant to find a source of water. That's exactly what tree roots do, right? Our sewer lateral pipe underground running in our front yard is a perfect source of water. We always have water running to it. Every time you use a faucet, you flush the toilet, take a shower, water's going through it, right? So now it's a contained system in that the sewer lateral is contained. So the trees are not going to sense that water unless there's something already wrong with the pipe. We have some kind of structural defect that allows the tree to then sense that the water is there. So then what do the roots do? They go straight for the pipe. And then they find their way in because there's a defect in the pipe. Maybe it's a separation in a joint. Maybe it's an offset or a crack. They get in there. The roots then form a ball to soak up all that water. And then that clogs your pipe. And that's what causes the backup. Your toilet paper, all that stuff that goes down the toilet gets stuck there. It builds up over time. Pieces of food that we're putting in our sink get stuck there. And voila, you got a blockage, right? So tree roots are a massive problem.
That, it's possible, that comes to the property up to the street line, right?
Correct.
But for the street line, we have the patch before the sidewalk. Know what I mean?
Right.
That's the trees. So who's responsible for that?
If it's past your property line, it's the city.
The property line? Oh, okay, it's up the sidewalk, right?
Wherever your property line is, after that is going to be the city's responsibility. So you have to look to see where your property line ends. If your property line ends at the curb, that includes the sidewalk, then you're responsible. Yeah, then you are, because that's your property line. Question.
But now we go out. To, is that something new that comes, or-
We do have a requirement in Morgan Hill, but not anywhere else. It will come. It will come. Here we go. We're up. Here we go. And why? So that the root intrusion, that's what I first talked about in this picture here. That is a big reason, right? And the next reason is the pipes themselves. I mean, most of our homes were built 40s, 50s, 60s. What material did we use back then? Clay. Clay pipe was the material to use back then. Clay is fantastic in that it will last 10,000 years underground. It'll stay there. It won't deteriorate, right? But the problem with clay is it's brittle. And what does California have lots of? Movement, right? Seismic movement. We have lots of seismic movement. We also have lots of ground movement from water. All the rains, every year when all that rain comes in and we get all that rain, well, our soils don't hold it very well. We're not the Midwest. We're not, the Northwest either. So it just sits here. So then what happens to the soil here? I don't know if you've ever looked under the houses in some homes in Santa Clara or Milpitas. The soil has all those cracks in it. It's because it's expansive. It's expansive soil. So it goes up. Every time it rains, that just expands. Your whole house pushes up. The sewer lateral pipe pushes up. And then as it dries out and we start getting into the summer months, it's contracting and it's dropping and it's dropping. It's settling, right? And that's the movement we see in our houses. Same movement happens with those pipes. And what happens is they crack, they break, they separate at the joints. So clay in itself, the infrastructure is old. Really, it's really old. We have not gone through and started replacing it. Yeah, everywhere has an issue with that. Right. And the cities are starting to realize they cannot keep up with it. They know they can't keep up. They can't afford it. They're trying to fix all their pipes in the street. They can't keep up with all the laterals. So that's why these ordinances are coming about. They're passing the buck on to the homeowner because they can't do it. There was also a very large research done by Berkeley and a couple other universities here on the Bay Area and the impacts of the sewage in the Bay. And they found that all this old pipe is causing massive discharge of sewage into the bay, because every time it does rain and we get all that water, well, because of all the cracks, we have something called infiltration that occurs. The water comes into the pipe. It goes into a pipe. Water is going to find the path of least resistance to go somewhere, right? That's how water works. So if you have a break in the pipe, and I've seen in actual inspections on video, literally water just pouring out of a hole into the pipe, and that's just groundwater sitting in the ground that's just pouring into the pipe. That then goes into our city sewer systems, which then goes into the sewage plant. It overflows it. There's too much water, so they discharge it into the bay. That's what they do. They have to just dump it into the bay. And they want to prevent that. So that's the other reason why they're requiring this. There's a bunch of reasons. And then lastly, we have these older pipes too, known as cast iron. Cast iron was used in the 70s and 80s. In the 60s, they transitioned away from clay, went to cast iron. Cast iron is good. It's solid material, but it has a shelf life, 30, 40 years at most underground, and it starts to rot away. It starts to rust and rot away. I mean, I've seen cast iron where we've dug out the hole, exposed the pipe, and you touch it and it falls apart. That's how rusty it gets. It may look like this on the inside, it's clogged. It looks worse on the outside usually. So cast iron is a bad material now. We don't recommend it. It's not used anymore. We use plastic, PVC, ABS, things like that. Well, that's what we're going to use for our sewer lateral because it's flexible. It moves with the soils. It won't break unless it moves a lot. And 10,000 years. I mean, plastic doesn't deteriorate underground like the cast iron does. I mean, clay won't deteriorate underground, it just breaks, but the cast iron will. So that's why we're using plastic. Anything 90s onward is going to be plastic.
You have a question? Hold on, sorry. Stay in the mic because Zoom can't hear your question. So,
Oh, okay. No worries.
I have another one. Go ahead. My question is.
here's the mic.
Sorry. So my question is, if we're going to plastic PVC, are we putting those deeper? Because some areas get frost, some don't, and frost will brittle the PVC pipe after a while. So you're going deeper with these sewer laterals.
Right. And as someone who grew up in Canada, you the Midwest, that's what we would do, but not here in California. Not unless we're maybe up in Tahoe, up in the mountains there. Yeah, it doesn't really, there's no frost line here. We don't have to worry about that here. Yeah. Yeah, Tahoe maybe, depending on what elevation you're at. That maybe, but here we don't have to worry about it. And the lateral pipes are going to be sitting usually around 1 to 2 feet underground, and then start to run out from there to about 4, 5, 6 feet. At the city main.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
There is a subdivision of Monterey Road, and the builders, that was years ago when they built it, and they used plastic pipes for the plumbing, and they were sued because those pipes started cracking after so many years and breaking.
Yes.
So is that the same plastic that is being used for?
No, they were using polybutylene. That
Okay.
was a PEX. That was a whole different other material. But that is a very good question. But yeah, that was a whole lawsuit in the 90s that happened. When we install the pipe, we tell you the material we're using, but we're pretty much nowadays it's PVC or ABS. It's a form of that they're using, and it's good material. So much so that the cities, if you have a plastic line installed, they're going to exempt you from that ordinance for 15 to 20 years, right? That's how sure that they are. Things can happen, yes, to the plastic pipe. Where it's going to happen is joints. Over time, with movement, we may have joints that separate depending on how well the plumber did a job of installing it, right? So that can happen, or sags can develop, a belly can develop in the pipe, and then stuff just sits there rather than nicely flowing. So I do encourage inspections, and inspections are encouraged. And that's why they say, 15, 20 years, you'll be exempt, and then you would have to have your lateral inspected. So moving on quickly about certification. What do we need to have to do the sewer lateral inspection? Well, in San Jose, there is no requirement. You can have anybody do it. But if you go to Morgan Hill and you're going to list a home in Morgan Hill, this is very important. You have to use a NASCO certified inspector. NASCO is the National Association of Sewer Service Companies. If they do not have this certification, Morgan Hill will not accept the form from them, and they will check the licensing. They will check. You also have to be a licensed plumbing company, right? And why do they require NASCO? NASCO is kind of that golden standard across the globe. They're global, and they dictate, basically, they have written out the standards on how to inspect a pipe. And this is any sort of pipeline inspection. So they have provided those standards. They have provided a grading system on how to grade the pipe. Is it a failed pipe, or is it a pipe that is still okay and it's passed? And they've provided that system for us. So we follow those standards. All of our inspectors are NASCO certified. HomeGuard is a licensed plumbing company, right? So we can do the inspection in Morgan Hill. But if you don't have both those things, you can't do it. Out here in San Jose, you can have anybody do it. Doesn't matter for now, until they pass an ordinance. So sewer lateral certificate, what is it? That is a certificate issued by the jurisdiction that the city is in this case, Morgan Hill, the city of Morgan Hill, saying that your sewer lateral is okay. It is passed because you've had it checked, you've had it inspected, it is past their standard, and they will give you that certificate. It's good for 15 years. Yeah, if it's a new lateral, it's good for 15 years. If you had repairs done, they may only certify you for 5 years. If there was like a spot repair done, not a full replacement, they may only certify you for 5 years. No, they're still within that certificate window. So if you have that certificate, if depending on which you get, if you get the 5-year, the 15-year certificate, that time frame is how long you could sell the home anytime during that. You will not have to get that inspection done again. But if you're past that time frame, then yes, you would need to. Okay, and right now, pretty much everybody has to get that inspection done, except for homes built 2005 and later, because they're in that 15-year window, right? They're a newer home. They've got new plastic pipe. If you've had a lateral that has been permitted through the city of Morgan Hill within the last 10 years, brand new lateral, 10, 15 years, you're also going to be exempt because they have a permit on file that says you replaced the sewer lateral in the last 10, 15 years. So they're going to be okay. Condos and townhomes also are exempt. They are not part of this ordinance. This is only for single family, okay? So that's key word there, single family. If you have a condo or townhome that you're selling, you won't have to go through this. The HOA does have to do periodic inspections of the entire collection system, sewer collection system. But that's the responsibility of the HOA, not the homeowner. In Morgan Hill, no. Oh, yes. Okay, so Alameda is different. Alameda is going to be different. That's going to be under East Bay Mud. East Bay Mud has a different ordinance. And again, there, it may be, it got to check your HOA to see what the HOA says, because the HOA will tell you if they're responsible for the lateral or if they're not, okay? There are some townhomes I've encountered up in the North Bay and East Bay that have made the laterals independent, and they're not part of a collection system, and they are the homeowner's responsibility. So do always check your CCNRs when you're buying or listing a condo or townhome in those areas. But for sake of Morgan Hill, you're not going to have to do it.
Wait. Oh, I'm sorry. So for a single home in San Jose, what we don't know. If we have an inspection, it will be reported to the city, correct?
No.
Oh, okay.
We don't have to report anything to the city.
Okay.
If you have us do an inspection, it's going to be just for you, for your information.
Okay, because I was afraid that, when you go to the city, they will say, okay, you need to repair or whatever.
Yeah, no, we don't send anything to the city unless we have to. Unless we're required to. Morgan Hill doesn't even require us to send it to the city. They require the homeowner send it to them. So we give you the form and you have to send it to them. Questions?
An estimate of what needs to be done or recommendation.
The report will, if you have to do repairs, right?
Does it include an estimate?
Yes, we do include it. And I'll talk about that in the report for sure.
Is it apply for duplex or?
A duplex, yes, because it's gonna be a single structure has one line, right? It's not gonna have multiple lines. It'll have one lateral, so that we will apply to a duplex, yes. Okay, so our certificate in Morgan Hill, you know, this is what they have. If we go into East Bay, in Morgan Hill, they just want the form filled out. They want an inspection. They want to see a video. That's what the city wants. They want to know if it's going to be a pass. In East Bay, if we are in East Bay mud, so any of these cities here, Oakland, Piedmont, Emeryville, Alameda, any of those, we have to not only do the inspection, we have to do a test. We have to do a pressure test. So East Bay Mud takes it a whole nother step forward. They want it, and they're even stricter. They want the test done. The test done, what it is we're basically blocking both ends of the pipe, filling the pipe with air or water up to 5 pounds per square inch of pressure, and then letting it sit for 15, 20 minutes to see if any of that pressure starts to drop. If it's dropping, that means air or water is escaping out of the pipe. That means there's a defect somewhere in that pipe. So you get it inspected first to make sure we can pass that test, because the test is going to cost $1,500 to $2,000. So you want to get the inspection done first and make sure you're going to pass. And that's what all the companies do up there. They inspect first. They'll tell you if anything needs to be repaired. So if we see anything, and HomeGuard does the same, if we see anything that needs to be fixed, we're going to let you know. We're going to give you a quote, a bid, and a price so you can get it repaired. And then after it's done, we're going to have the test done. And you're going to want to get that test done. And that's what you need to close escrow on any homes in East Bay Mud. That's a point of sale requirement. Same Morgan Hill, it's a point of sale requirement. Okay. Now there is a way to close escrow if we have problems, and maybe the homeowner doesn't want to fix it, doesn't have the money to do it, or anything like that. The buyer can take on the responsibility. They can agree to it. In Morgan Hill, they can sign a form and give it to the city saying, I'm aware that there is this much work that needs to be done on the lateral, and I agree to take on that responsibility, and we'll have it fixed within 6 months after close of escrow. So they have 6 months from close of escrow to get it done and get it fixed. The city will track that. And if they don't get it done, they'll shut their water off. That's what they've threatened. That's what Morgan Hill is saying. So communicate that to your buyers if they are willing to take that responsibility on. Okay. The trend that I'm seeing down in Morgan Hill is the buyers are not. The buyers are saying, no, fix it. And that is the trend. So the homeowners are having to get, right now in this current market, that's the trend, and that's what they're having to do. They're having to get it fixed. That could change. It's always going to be market dependent. We all know that, right? So, question.
I just want to clear on the certificate. Sorry. I just want to be clear on the certificate
Sure.
of 5 years, 10 years, because we talked about the PVC. If it's a clay
Mhm.
or a can't think,
Cast iron.
cast iron, thank you. Are you certifying them as well
It
for
can
5
pass and
years?
certify, yes, if it has no defects.
So, okay, that's, I just wanted
Right.
to make sure.
But that's the question. If there's
Yeah.
no defects that fail, and that's very rare. That is extremely rare. I've studied the numbers. I've run the numbers. We are finding that about 69% of all laterals are failing. So it is a lot. So yeah, and that's the infrastructure. That's just how it's, because it's old, right? It's old infrastructure. If you have the nice new plastic piping, you're probably good. You're probably good. But you got cast iron clay, you're probably not. And we're going to likely recommend it be replaced. That's most likely the outcome that any plumber, any company is going to recommend with that material. The forms, I'm going to skip to this one. That's Morgan Hill. That's the form that is filled out and submitted as part of the certification process. Okay. So I fill out, our inspector is going to fill out from here, all this, and he's going to write down every piece of information about the inspection. They want a lot of information. They even ask us to diagram it. So we do draw a diagram of that. Okay. This is also for their reference, I guess, when they're looking at it. They have a log that goes over all the stuff that we're seeing by distance in the pipe. So all the defects. Now, Morgan Hill is really strict. Like, they asked us to follow NASCO standards, but then they have taken the requirements and gone beyond what NASCO even says we need to do. They've taken it a whole nother step forward. So our inspectors are always going to follow whatever the city guideline is first. And then if if the guidelines, they don't have guidelines, we're gonna fall back on NASCO. That's then the standard our inspectors are gonna follow, okay? So, but Morgan Hill, for example, if there's any roots whatsoever in the pipe, no matter how small, they want it fixed. That's, I mean, NASCO, per NASCO standards, I could have up to a 30% blockage of roots and you could still pass the inspection. Right? But in Morgan Hill, just even a little hair of it. And I have had one where the plumber was really upset because he had just repaired the line. And when he had repaired the line, he had connected two joints together. And in doing so, he had caught a piece of root in the joint and it tore off and it was stuck in there. Our inspector did the inspection and saw the root hanging down and called it out. And the city was like, nope, you got to find that out. You got to dig that up. The plumber's livid. He's like, I just fixed it. There's no roots there. I show him the video. He's like, oh, that's just a piece of root that got stuck. And I said, I know, but the city wants it clarified and they want to know. So you're going to have to dig it up. So he had to re-dig it up, take a point, pull that out, stick it back together, and then it was fine. So that's how strict Morgan Hill is on this stuff. Okay. So they don't charge. They don't charge. That's one of the few cities that don't charge. A lot of the other cities in the Bay Area are charging a fee for their certificate. Morgan Hill is not. So they're actually not making any money off this. Yeah, that's they have an issue with the water contamination. That's kind of their reason. Yeah.
What is the inspection cost?
$295.
Doesn't matter where.
Doesn't matter where.
Okay.
Yeah. So $295 is the inspection cost. So that's the form. We're gonna fill all this out. If there's a recommendation, because repairs are needed, we're gonna write that in here. We're gonna say it did not pass. We're gonna answer all their questions. And then this top portion needs to be signed by the homeowner and filled out by the homeowner. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna fill that out. We're gonna email you this to whoever's information was given to us. We're gonna email it to them. Then they've got to have the homeowner sign it. You got to have the homeowner sign it, fill it out. And then you would email it to the address written on the top of the form, which is the city of Morgan Hill. Send them the form, send them a copy of our report, because our report does have the video link in there. They can click on the link and watch the video. I know the people who are watching the videos down there, I've talked to them many times. They're fine with just getting our report and looking at them. Okay. So that's the Morgan Hill. That's the only one you got to worry about here in Santa Clara County. Great. That's so far. I know Gilroy and Hollister are already talking about it. So is the city of San Jose. There has been talks of it already. Okay.
What do you think?
So we have two questions on Zoom.
Okay.
First one's from Deanne. So feel free to unmute there, Deanne, to ask a question. Oh, give me 1 second
Can
here.
you type it out?
We'll jump in right here.
Okay.
And then I have a second one here, so we'll come back to you right now, Deanne. Second one we have is from Valerie. It says, does HomeGuard conduct inspections in Hollister?
Yes, we do. We do Hollister. We go down, we'll even do San Juan or Batista. That's right, San Juan Batista. Question.
No, just a quick question. What
Yeah.
do you think triggered that in Morgan Hill? I
It was-
remember I sold a house in Pacifica.
Yeah.
I had a sewer lateral inspected, but Daly City, it doesn't require it. So it depends on the city. You
Does.
always have to check it because it doesn't just because it belongs to Santa Clara County doesn't mean the other cities are affected. So it's
Right.
city per city.
It is
So I don't
it
know
is
why
city per
it
city.
started in Morgan Hill. Would you know?
It started there because they did a research on their watershed in the area. They have a dam there. They got a watershed. They got a reservoir. And they found that the sewer laterals were contaminating it because of all the broken laterals and contaminating the soil. So that's why they did it. They did a huge study on the past few years on it, especially with the recent flooding and the rains in the creek. That kind of brought that to the surface, and that's why they passed it. Other cities have their reasons as well, but that's Morgan Hill. That's why Morgan Hill is doing that. Okay.
All right, and then we'll go back to Deanne right here on Zoom.
Okay.
So feel free to unmute now, Deanne.
Yes, hi. I'm wondering, so when there is a problem, is it just the section that needs to be replaced, or do
Just a
they
quick
have to
question.
replace
How
the
far
whole?
south do you go to Monterey County, King City?
No, that's too far, unfortunately. Yeah,
Not yet.
not yet. We have gone to Salinas on occasion. If you call and ask, you'll have to get a special approval on that, but we have done that depending on the inspection, you know, the agent, things like that. So we have gone to Salinas before.
Yeah, I'm
San Francisco, South San Francisco is. Yes.
I was
South
gonna
San
say,
Francisco.
speaking as a broker, you need to make sure what city you're working in. Because a couple years ago, somebody did not have a sewer lateral done and closed on the transaction. And the end of it was it cost her about $25,000.
Yes, yes. And I've luckily I've gathered all that information for everybody already.
Yeah. And it's coming.
Yeah.
For our county. It's definitely coming. It cost the agent
The agent.
about $25,000
Right. So.
because she didn't do her work.
Right, so I did actually all the research for everybody already on the cities here in Northern California. I have created a spreadsheet. Marlene has a copy of it. This spreadsheet lists every city in the Bay Area, in the Central Valley, in Sacramento, and if they have an ordinance or not. And if they do have an ordinance, what does it cover? Do they need a video? Need anything like that?
So we'll send the PDF here and then we can get it sent. I have one copy, so I'm gonna raffle it off for charity. No.
Yeah, I mean, I have a PDF and I can send it around.
Yeah,
Marlene can
we'll
send it
send it
around. We
to
can
all
get it
of
to
you.
everybody. And it covers all the information that you really need to know on the basics. But as always, and I tell this to everybody, when you look at that spreadsheet and it says, yes, sewer lateral required, it says yes. Go to the city website and educate yourself and make sure you read every detail, because I'm only going to give you a quick summary of my thing. Is a video required? Yes. Do you have to have a plumber? Yes or no? Do you have to pay a fee? Yes or no? I have that basic information compiled already, but you should always get those details and make sure you understand where you're listing that home and what the rules are around them. Yeah, it can definitely be. And I definitely encourage that. So preparing for the inspection, very, very easy. If we're going to come out and do the inspection, we do not necessarily need to go in the house. We can do it completely independent outside. We don't have to get in the house. The only reason we would need to go in the house would be if we're pulling the toilet. Okay, you know, you don't have a clean out. You want us to pull that toilet for you. Then we would need to get in. Otherwise, we don't have to get in the house. In Morgan Hill, if you do want us to do the water conservation utility form, there is a requirement of checking the low flow on the toilets and the showers in Morgan Hill now. They've kind of partnered that in with the sewer lateral. We can check that for you. So then we would need to get in the house if you want us to do that for you, okay? You may be exempt, or you may already know and have had your handyman or another plumber check it for you, but if you want us to, we can look and do it for you. And that's in Morgan Hill only. Otherwise, we don't really need to get in the house. I just need to have access to that clean out. So ask the homeowner, do you know where your clean out is? They may know, they may not. There's a lot that don't know. And you've had some education on what a clean out is. If they say it's the one coming out of my kitchen wall, no, that's not it. So you can know now, and do please find out, because we've had situations where it was in the driveway and the car was parked on top and the homeowner was off, gone somewhere. Well, couldn't move the car, couldn't do the inspection. So please find out. If you can't find it, don't worry. The inspector's going to walk around the property. He's going to try to locate that for you. And then he's going to do his inspection. It takes about 30 minutes to do the inspection. Does not take long. He's going to film it. He's going to have a camera. He's going to create a video. You can sit there and watch. We encourage you to always be out there for the inspection if possible, or have the homeowner there, because the inspector will go over what he finds if anybody's there to receive that briefing from him. And he'll tell you what he's got. And he can answer those questions for you, right? The report you're going to get is in writing and it's going to detail everything. But it's always nice to be able to ask the questions and kind of, read things over and find out for yourself from them what's going on. So please be there. That's really all we got to do to prepare for it. It is very easy, very simple. What is in the report? You're going to get a video. That's big. You're going to have a video. You're going to have a detailed scope listing what is the inspection covering. What are we basing our inspection off? What is it? You know, what did we not look at, which would be the plumbing under the house? We do not check the plumbing under the house. We will not comment about the plumbing under the house. I get asked that a lot. Will you just put the camera the other way and check for me? No, I cannot. That's not the sewer lateral system. Please refer to your home inspection report for any information on the plumbing under the house. After the scope, you're going to get a general description of the pipe, telling you how long the pipe is. Is it a 3-inch pipe, a 4-inch pipe? How deep is it at the house, at the curb, at the main? What is the material? What is it made of? How does it connect to the city main? We're going to tell you how it connects. So we give you all these detailed information that is helpful to have. And then after that will be the inspection video, the link, this big blue link. Click on that, takes you to Dropbox. And the video will be uploaded there. You can download a copy. Please download a copy and save that for your records. That link will expire after 90 days for security reasons. If it does expire, you need a copy, you can always feel free to reach out to our customer service department. We can try to dig that up for you. We do clean it out periodically, the Dropbox, because it does get full. We have a lot of videos going on, so we will clean it out. So please always download a copy, okay? After that is that inspection log. The city of Morgan Hill has it on the form. We also have that in our report. And we do that because NASCO says we need to do this inspection log. So that's why it's in the report, okay? And it's going to detail again what was found and where. There's a distance. We use a distance. So from the clean out, where he starts his inspection, it says 28 feet, there was a change in material to PVC. So at 28 feet, the pipe changed to a plastic pipe. And 28 feet out. So 28 feet from that clean out is where that change happened, because we got a little counter on our line as we're pushing out that's telling us how far we're going out. So we know exactly where everything is, okay? And then you're going to get the findings. This is the body of the report. This is what was found. Read those details. Couple terms you need to be aware of. We reference a clock a lot. We use a clock as a reference, right? Sewer laterals are round. So it's a very good way for us to do it. If we see a crack at 6 o'clock, well, it's at the bottom, 6 o'clock. That's where that crack is. So we'll use that term a lot. We also use percentages. We always refer to things in percentages, and that's percentage of obstruction or blockage in the pipe, right? Imagine that pipe, break it in half, 50%, 50%. So if you have a 50% blockage, it means half that pipe is blocked, and that's not good. You're gonna fail at that point, okay? And then we have our summary. The summary is telling you if your pipe has failed, this or not, or passed. This is the only inspection and HomeGuard does where we are telling you if there's a fail or a pass. We don't say anything about that in the home inspection, termite or roof, but in this one we do, because NASCO has given us a standard on how to do that, right? So if it's a failed pipe, what does that mean? What does that mean? It means your pipe has already either completely failed, it's not doing its job anymore, or it's gonna not do its job within the next 5 years. That's the standard of a fail, right? And that's why the cities want stuff fixed. If it's a passing pipe and we see defects, because we can pass it with defects still present. You can have X amount of defects before we hit a point where it's a failure. And again, NASCO provided that. Let's use roots as an example. If I see 20% blockage with roots or a 30% blockage of roots, that comes with a score of 3. I can go up to 12 before I fail. I hit 13, it's now a fail. So I can have 4 instances of roots and you're still a pass. You're still a pass. Now, if it's a 50% blockage of roots, well, that has a score of 5. Automatic fail, just 1, automatic fail. Any sort of operational or structural defect with a score of 4 or 5 is gonna be a fail automatically. And that's because it's a really severe defect, like the root ball. That's a severe defect. But all these other lower scored ones, 2 or a 3, I can add that up and I can hit that 12 and we're still a pass. Now, again, of course, in Morgan Hill, 1 thing of roots, automatic fail. That's their standard. So that's why we follow that standard, because they're setting that. They're telling us we have to do that. Okay. So that's all going to be detailed here in your summary, if it's a pass or a fail. And then we're going to tell you how to fix it. What is our recommendation? Should you replace the pipe? Should you do a partial replacement? Or maybe just a spot repair? Spot repair will be cutting out maybe a 5 to 10 foot section of pipe, right? And we'll give you a price. We'll have a bid there for that. Okay. And then after that, gonna get photos. in the report. Again, this is all from the video, and you can watch the video. So it's a great thing about having that video is you have a complete recording of that inspection. It's the only inspection that's completely recorded, and you're seeing everything. But you're going to have some highlighted photos of those specific defects that were found. So up here, we're seeing root ball. That's a root ball. That's what it looks like. If you had this in your pipe, that's definitely a fail. Okay. And this root ball, if you notice, there's an orange pipe here. That's clay. And we can see the entire width of that pipe because we're at a joint and it has offset enough for me to see the entire edge of that pipe. And we can see a big black void here. Well, it's separated, it's pulled apart, and that's soil. If I shined a light there, I would see soil. Right here. Yeah. That joint pulled apart. There's soil right there. Root came in, created that ball. That's why that happened. It's happening here too. Here you don't see the black void. You just see the edge of the pipe. So it hasn't necessarily separated yet, but it's offset enough I can see the entire edge of the pipe. Okay. Similar over here, roots coming in. Sorry, Siri. And then down below here, we see these cones, these pictures of the ground. Our inspector goes and locates those issues. He has a little locator device. The head of the camera emits a radio wave frequency that allows us to pinpoint exactly where it is and tell us how deep it is. And so by doing that, we can find out where it is and how far down we're going to have to dig to get that up. That gives us the ability to bid that out, provide you a price. We will also put a cone down. He'll write how deep it is. He'll write 5 or 6 or a 3. He'll drop that. He's going to stand back. He's going to take a photo because he wants everyone to see that area that needs to be fixed. In this case, it's in the street. Yeah, it's in the street. So we have to dig up the street to do that repair. That was in Castro Valley. And in Castro Valley, you are responsible for what's in the street. So the homeowner is going to have to pay to have that done. That does require special licensing in order to work in the street. Not anybody. We have to sub somebody out to do that work who's got that special licensing to do that work, right? And there's cities usually only have a few contractors they allow to do that work. So it can get expensive if we're getting into the street, okay?
So we have another.
I know. Lastly, after that is our work authorization agreement. After the pictures, that's where you can sign and fill things out. If you want us to do the work, send it in to us. One great thing is we do bill escrow for repairs. So I know there are homeowners that are trying to sell the house. They may be strapped for a little bit of cash at that time. They don't want to pay $15,000 out of pocket to sell their home. So we can bill escrow and take care of that for you.
So we have a question on Zoom. When there is a problem, do they just need to replace that one section or does it need to be the entire line?
Good question. Really, really good question. And there's a lot of factors that really go into that. If I see one defect in one area, we may only have to repair that one area and then the rest of the pipe can pass. So we just dig up that area. But if we see lots of defects stretched out over an area, well, at that point, it's more cost effective to just replace the whole thing. And the city is probably going to want us to replace the whole thing. Okay.
Do you guys do trenchless?
We do. We use trenchless equipment. And it's a great way to access that pipe and bust it out and pull a new pipe through without having to dig up the whole length of the sewer lateral. Really, all we got to do is create 2 holes. One hole over where it connects to the city main, or if it's San Jose, we would do it at your property line because we don't have to worry about what's in the city street. And then we create a hole over by your house. And then there's a hydraulic piece of equipment that comes in and it just starts smashing out the old pipe underground. It's creating a hole, busting out the old one. As it's doing it, it's pulling the new pipe through, right? So pulls it all the way through. The guys get in the hole, they hook it up, they put a clean out, Literally where they dig those 2 holes, they're just going to put clean outs there. So it works out great. And then they fill it back in.
However, if it goes to the city, if it goes to the city into the street.
Then we got to dig in the street. Yes.
That's the answer.
Correct. And we've had to do it. We just did one recently up in San Mateo because city of San Mateo does have an ordinance. So if you do list in San Mateo, you will have to have it inspected. And we had to dig up the street in order to do this one. And right where it connected to the city main was the homeowner pipe. Literally right next to it was a neighbor across the street's pipe. His connection was busted too. And the whole section was all busted. The city made us replace all of it. Yes, not their lateral, just their connection. Yep, we went back and forth with the city on that. The homeowner paid for it. And whether he goes after the homeowner, other homeowner, I don't know. It's up to them, but the city made us do it.
Quick question.
So that means the ordinance is available.
Yes, we're gonna email it. We can email it to you. Yes, I have a PDF. Yes, there's a lot more stuff coming. I know.
Question.
Yes.
Does the local city, how long do they allow to wait? Let's say the buyer took, say, hey, I'll take care of that. You gave me a discount. I'll have that repair. How long is the wait till the city says, hey, you have to get it done within this time?
6 months usually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 4 to 6 months. I've
Thank
seen
you.
some cities say 4 months. So it can
I have
vary.
another question on Zoom.
Yep.
How long does it take to do the work? If in escrow and found, how much time should we tell the clients?
Good question. Sewer lateral repair work is very quick. It's actually very fast. Permitting is also very fast. Cities give us permits really quickly on sewer laterals for some reason. Don't know why, but they do. Maybe it's a different department from the guys do all the building permits or whatever. But they give it to us very quick. Repairs, I've seen a full replacement done in 1 day. 1 day. And we might go into a second day if we're having to pour concrete. If we're going to bust up concrete and then we have to pour concrete. And then if we're connecting to a main, there could be a little bit out of time. The city may want to inspect the connection at the main. Okay. So that could add a little time, but generally like Morgan Hill, if we just got to come out and do a spot repair, we're in and out same day. That's how fast it is. It is quick, right? And our turnaround time on inspections is also really quick for sewer lateral. It's usually about a 1 or 2 day lead time on a sewer lateral inspection. And then lastly, I mean, do remember if you're going to have us do the work on our contract, it's also written here, notice of 3-day right to cancel. In California, there is a law. The homeowner has 3 days to cancel any contract on home improvement. That applies to all trades, not just us, right? So we're not going to start work in the first 72 hours after that contract's been signed, because we wouldn't, we start work and then they cancel on us and we've already done the work, then they don't have to pay us, right? So obviously you got to wait that 72 hours. So get that contract in really quick, sign it, get it in quick. We'll schedule to come out. And again, we're pretty quick on our, yes, after 3 days, we'll come out. We'll schedule it right away for 3 days out. Yep.
Earlier, you said there will be 2 cleanouts.
Yes.
Well, we're taking the old one out, putting a new one. Why would we need 2 cleanouts?
The city wants to have a city clean out at the property line.
No, but when we're replacing the old cleanout with a new one, and you're gonna need one for the new one, but the old one wasn't there or is not going to be used anymore. Why would we need to have a cleanout for that?
If we replace the full lateral, we're taking out the old cleanouts at the same time and putting in new cleanouts as part of the removal. Because where your cleanout is at the house is where we're going to connect the line. That's where the sewer lateral starts. So that's where we're going to dig the hole to connect it up. And once we're done connecting everything, we're going to put a new clean out there. Okay. So a full replacement always includes 2 cleanouts in a bid. That's part of that. It always, because the city requires 2 cleanouts too. They want a clean out at the house. They want a clean out at the property line. So we're going to always have 2 cleanouts. If we do an inspection and we see that your property only has 1 clean out at the house and nothing at the street, we are going to write that in the report. It's going to be written in the report that you only have 1 clean out. And at some point you may have to put in a second clean out. You may not have to do it right away, but if we go to do any sort of work on the lateral or on your sewer system or your plumbing system, the city may say at that point, put it in, right? So there is triggers that could cause you to have to do it. So we will let you know if you don't have 2 clean outs.
Well, when you do the replacement of the pipes for the sewer line,
Mhm.
do you need to have a permit from the city?
Yes, we do get an
And you
encroachment permit.
get the permit yourself? or
We do. We
homeowner
pull all the
goes?
permits.
Okay.
Yes, we do it. HomeGuard does it the right way. We're going to pull the permits. We're going to recommend the best course of action for repair. So I mean, it may be to repair, if we do one spot repair, that could resolve the issue, but then you have all clay and cast iron pipe. Well, the best course of action is to have a new sewer lateral at that point, not necessarily a spot repair. Now, you may just ask us to do the one repair, to just do the spot repair. We can accommodate that, but we are going to recommend to do the full replacement, right? We're always going to recommend the best course of action. Now, even if your sewer lateral passes, it's a pass and we see a defect, we're going to give you a preventative maintenance correction, a recommendation to fix that at some point, because at some point that issue could get worse, right? If I see some roots in there, but you still passed because we're within the threshold of enough roots to not fail, I'm going to recommend you still fix that. And, you know, some plumbers will say we can just hydrojet the line. We can just put water under pressure, remove all the roots. Does that solve the problem?
No, they'll
No,
come back.
the roots still got in, right? The only way to fix it is to dig out that section of pipe and replace it. And that's digging is where the costs come from. It's the digging. It's not the material. It's how deep we have to go. If it's really, really deep, it's going to be more expensive. If it's shallow, which is your normal 2 to 3 feet, then you're going to have a normal cost. But
In
yeah.
your opinion, what will replacing the whole sewer lateral will cost?
Good question. It always comes at some point. So I've run the numbers based off of 1,000 inspections to find all of our price points. I graphed every single bid we did over 1,000 inspections to see where we fall. And all of our replacements, it falls within 10 to 15 grand per replacement. You're going to be somewhere in there. A spot repair is going to be lower. You're going to fall between 5 and 10 grand for a spot repair. Okay. If it's exceeding 15 grand, and there are some that exceed 15 grand, I've seen some go up to the $20,000 or $30,000. That's because we're doing some serious digging. It's a hillside home. It's got a 150-foot lateral. You know, it's a big lateral. It turns, it bends, it goes all over the place. Maybe we're digging up street. But in most homes and in San Jose, San Jose's and the Bay Area, Santa Clara County's got that normal layout that you see where the houses are packed in on the street. And you're going to have your 30, 40-foot lateral, maybe 50 feet that goes from the house to the street. That's it. And it's a straight shot. So on average, most of the time, it's going to be in that 10 to 15K range.
In San Jose, they have letter S on sidewalks. Is that because where the sewer lateral line is?
Yes, very good. That is a stamp. We're stamping the curb to say there's an S there.
But you don't see the clean out. So you just see the letter S.
Correct. And so if we're going to do work, the city is going to say, put a clean out in there. And so we will, because if we don't, the city will make you responsible for the rest of the pipe.